ever wanted to know who you are or where you're from?
Wow, I really wanted to know where my family's from. I kind of thought we were from South Carolina, but I think I heard somebody say that we were from maybe the Virgin Islands or something like that.
Oftentimes my family thought that they came from West Africa when they found out that we came from the South Central portion of Africa.
Many of us have heard that we're from one place, later to find out that none of that our family members thought was true was fact.
His family, because his mother was Native American, so we claim Native American because my ancestry has shown that we have that mixture, that blend that most of us have, but less Native American than African. So knowing your heritage and knowing where you came from is important. DNA does count.
So that'll be good to know.
Who are you?
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Who Are You show. Thank you so much for joining me. I am very glad to bring this series to each and every one of you. So let's jump right in. I know a lot of people want to know, what is this about? Have you ever asked yourself why you look the way you do? I know some people have asked that question. Maybe you haven't asked yourself that question, but you know someone else that has asked their self that question. I knew a cousin that always felt that she looked a little different from some of her siblings. And so she always had a question in mind about who she was and why was there such an extreme difference between her look and the look of others. So you may know some people who have asked that question, or you may be the one who's asked that question. And if that is you, that is why we are here on today. So once again, if you've ever asked yourself why you look the way you do, then this show is for you. Why are you tall and everybody else seems to be short? Where did that height come from? Did anybody ever say to you, if you were taller than your mom, your dad, your siblings, maybe aunts, uncles, grandmother, grandfather, maybe somebody said, now you had to have skipped a couple of generations or something to get that height, because we don't know where you got that from. All right, that may be the reason you may need to tune in to this show. All right, did anybody ever tell you, we're not sure why you're so short, because everybody else in our family is tall. Most people are at least 6 feet. Now, for you to be down there at 5'5", we're not really sure where that comes from. And so, you know, you're the family member that's shorter than everybody else, and you've been looking around and wondering, well, you know, where did I get this height from? Somebody in my family surely had this gene, the reason I was born with this height and not the taller height that my siblings and parents may have. Maybe, just maybe, you're the one who's has freckles on your face. Anybody know anybody with freckles? Or maybe you're the one with freckles, and you looked around, you said, well, my mom doesn't have freckles. My dad doesn't have freckles. My sisters and brothers don't have freckles. So maybe, just maybe, there's something that I need to know about where this came from. Maybe you're thin and everyone else is a little thick. Maybe you're the thick one and everybody else is a little thin. It's so many differences that comes out in families and shows up in DNA. But you have to ask the question sometimes, where is this coming from? Because oftentimes we just have it in our minds, but we never pursue looking or to discover where is that difference coming from. What makes me me? Why do I look the way that I do? Maybe you're the one with a longer chin and everybody else has a rounder face. All right, now you know it didn't just come out the blue that your chin is longer and everybody else has a rounder face. So sometimes you do have to ask some questions. And I've heard many people say that they have had these questions for many years, but they were afraid to ask. And so I don't want you to be afraid today. This is a show that's going to talk to you and encourage you about discovery and finding out some information. And I know families oftentimes don't want you to know. They don't want to say anything about why you may look a little different. But I want you to know it's okay to get that information if you're ready. Now let me say this. If you are not ready, don't go down the path that will carry you to some information that you're not ready to receive. And so I think that's important to say here on the Who Are You show, because, I want you to be prepared. And so the only way you can do that is to think about both sides. Okay, what if you find out that the reason you have freckles and nobody else has freckles is because there's another bloodline somewhere? All right, that's the preacher way to say it. There's another bloodline somewhere. All right, but people do discover strange things, and they discover information sometimes that people did not want them to know. And so I just want you to be prepared that oftentimes this reveals a lot when you begin to look into your heritage, your family history, your DNA. People get lots of surprises. Some people don't. Some people get confirmations, but others get surprises. And so I just want you to be prepared if you choose to start on this journey. Now, maybe you're the one with thick eyebrows and everybody else has those thin eyebrows, and you've always wondered, everybody else has these very thin eyebrows. They're using eyebrow pencils and everything to try to pull theirs in, and nobody has thick, bushy eyebrows like me. All right, I had my aunt, my mother's oldest sister. She was looking at me one day. We were on a Zoom, and she said, "I see you have those Smith family eyebrows." I was like, "Oh, Lord, what does that mean?" Of course, I knew what she meant. I was just teasing with her. But, everything comes from somewhere. And that is the point that I want to make tonight or today on this particular show. So, once again, you have to know that whatever makes you you, that comes from somewhere. If you're the one with squinted eyes and everybody else has more of a rounded eye, again, where does that come from? So you have these questions because there's something inside of you, your inner spirit, that wants to know. And so, don't overlook what you feel on the inside. Don't overlook what you believe is something, because those somethings usually lead you to somewhere. And I want you to make sure that you are listening to your conscience, listening to that inner person that is talking to you, and you are pursuing information, okay? That's what the Who Are You show is about. Coming out of a place of being afraid of information. Information is important. Information is key. And I need you, if you're ready, to get the information to satisfy those questions, to provide answers to those questions you've always had. So now, have you ever asked yourself why you have certain talents, gifts, abilities? I mean, where do you get that ability to jump so high and slam the basketball? Where did that come from? Because you know your brothers didn't do that. You know your dad couldn't do that. Your mama can't do that. So where did that come from? Okay? Where did you get that ability to be able to sing? And some of you had the gift of singing many octaves. Okay, so where did that come from? You have a very wide range. Where did that come from? That came from somewhere, that vocal ability. Okay, so we have to wonder, did that come from a great aunt? Did that come from a great grandmother? A great grandfather? A great parent? Did that come from, somebody that you weren't told about? So we have to begin to have conversations. Yes, conversations are great. Conversations, yes, will help you. We have to begin to have conversations and not be afraid to ask questions and not be afraid to get the answers. Okay, somebody knows the answers. Believe me, I've learned over the years, somebody knows the answers. A lot of times those somebodies promised they was taking it to their grave. Anybody had any family members that said they was taking some things to their graves? Those family members promised that they're not going to say nothing, but I believe at some point it is the right time to tell the truth and help to discover our heritage. All right, so maybe you wonder why you're just gifted with numbers. That math comes so easy to you. The accounting comes easy to you. Doing anything that deals with numbers comes very easy to you. And you say, well, now, I know I didn't come from the brightest parents. So, where did this come from? It's a natural ability. It comes from somewhere. And so, you have to ask yourself these questions. And I would say begin to look, because some of us haven't even looked at ourselves and assessed our families to even ask those questions. Okay? And so this is, again, the Who Are You show. And we want to help you to begin to ask some questions and get some answers to some questions and to pursue some information. Okay, so I just want to say, sometimes we feel like I don't want to ask any questions. I'm okay with whatever. But no, you need to ask questions. It's important to ask questions. So now, maybe you are a star athlete. Maybe you are a star administrator. Who had that administrative gift? Who could put an office together like none other? Who could type and write and speak like none other? You got to begin to look around. That's all you got to do. I preached a sermon one time talking about look around. Look around and see, where you may have gotten this from. Now, the funny thing is sometimes they be like, girl, you just like your aunt. And, we'll be like, oh, yeah, we sure are. Some people later found out that the aunt was actually the mother, and the mother that you have was actually a sister or a cousin to the person you thought was your aunt. And so that's the reason you had the same gifts and talents and looks as she had. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen to you, but I am saying that sometimes people have discovered those things. So I do think that it's important to, let's look at our gifts. Let's look at our talents. Let's look at our abilities and see if our parents had any of those. Did our grandparents have any of those? Looking at the things that you like. Do you like photography? Who in your family may have loved pictures? I personally love pictures. And my great aunt in Fort Wayne, Indiana, my Aunt Minnie Williams, had pictures everywhere. And it wasn't until I went to her house as a teen, no, I think maybe I was like 12, 13. When I went to her house to visit for the first time, I then understood. I said, oh, here is my love for pictures. she had pictures going up the stairs of family members. And my other great aunt in Montgomery, Alabama, my great aunt Amy Harris, Collins Harris, I should say, she had pictures all throughout her house. And so when I would go there, I just felt like I was right at home because I have a love for pictures. And so I said, okay, I guess I got that, honestly. My grandmother's sisters, they had this love of pictures. Now, I didn't see all those pictures at her house, but her sisters, yes, they had that. And so there was a certain kinship I had with those aunts because I love pictures and love visiting them because they had so many pictures up. So, you know, you have to look at things that way. And then, have you ever asked why your hair looks the way that it does? You know, sometimes your hair looks a little different from the people that gave you life. And, you know, people say, well, are those your parents? And all you can say is yes. But maybe look and see that your grandparent possibly have the same type of hair that you had or have currently, or maybe a great-grandparent. You know, genes are funny. Genetics is something you have to really study, but they are funny. And so you want to go back and look at all of those types of things and say, oh, well, maybe my hair is red because, you know, my great-grandfather had red hair. Or maybe my hair is streaked because my grandmother's brother had streaked hair, you know. And so really, you know, we can get something, pull something from anywhere. And so you have to begin to look at your family tree. And that's what we're going to encourage you to do. We're going to talk about that in another show here at Who Are You? And see who had the same hair texture or the hairline that you had. You know, and it's wonderful to find out about many family members and all of the attributes that made them who they were and how everybody knew them when they walked down the street. What did they look like? And so, you know, I encourage you to go back and find some of that information and get some of that from your older adult family members while they can still remember and they're still here to share that with you. Have you ever asked, why is it that you like to cook? Maybe some of y'all got the cooking spirit and you have the gift of cooking. Who in your family could cook? Who was the best chef that everybody talked about? Everybody loved their cooking. I mean, everybody showed up when they cooked, when you had the family meals. Everybody said, okay, is Auntie so-and-so cooking? Or is cousin so-and-so cooking? I have a cousin right now. She's in Detroit. And I'm telling you, whenever she's cooking, I will be there to eat, okay? She is fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. You know, and I love her cooking, have always loved it. And anytime I'm there, I try to get me something that she has prepared so that I'll feel at home. And so some people just have the gift of cooking. Maybe painting. Anybody paint? And you just wonder where that came from. You know, is there an artist in your family? One of the things I discovered in my family, my mother used to draw all the time. And so I didn't know the degree or depth in which she drew. And then I was talking with her sister, my aunt, her older sister, and she told me that their brother also draws, one of their brothers. And so I said, wow. And so my aunt's daughter, she draws. So I said, okay. So then when my son started drawing, and he was very good, even his school told him, you know, you have a gift. I said, oh, I know where this comes from. And so as I'm telling you, you want to make sure that you are looking through your family line and seeing where some of these things that you got came from. Okay, so I've talked a lot about that. Let me get to what I really wanted to talk about on this particular show, number one of Who Are You? Genealogy. What is genealogy? Anybody looked at genealogy or thought about that lately? Genealogy is tracing the lines of your ancestors and their descendants. It's the history of your family. It's the untold stories of your ancestors you've always wanted to know. It adds detail and color to your family tree, offering insights into your ancestors' daily lives. It's the history, I love this, that makes you, you. It's the history, your genealogy is the history that makes you, you. And so I think it's important that we begin to find out, who are we? Now, it's important to know, when did your great-grandparents migrate to the United States, if they came from somewhere else? I guess, what different parts of the country? If they were slaves, were they sold into or brought into? And then where did they migrate to? It's important to look at those things, and what did they risk in their lives while they were here. And those types of things are so important to know, because that makes us appreciate, first of all, our ancestors, and then it makes us appreciate our heritage and who we are a little bit more. And so, were your ancestors business persons? Did they have a business? Did they start a company? Maybe they left a company legacy. And maybe you're a part of that company that your ancestors started. All right. Maybe they were instrumental in starting some type of master movement that happened here in the United States. So you want to know who your ancestors are and what they have done. Now, how can you find your ancestors? Through genealogy records. There are several genealogical records which can help you find more than this, just their names, more than just the dates in which they lived. Now, I found it to be very important to have their names and possibly around the year in which they were born or some time in which they lived, because that can help you. Now, if your family member has a very common name, let me say John Smith is a very common name, okay? Now, I'm saying John Smith because my grandfather's name is John Smith, my great-grandfather's name is John Smith, and his father's name, I think, was William. So thank God we moved from John. But my uncle, my mom's brother, was named John Smith. So we had 3 John Smiths right there together. And so, as I'm saying, that is a very common name, because every time I've tried to search my grandfather and great-grandfather, hey, there are thousands upon 10,000s of John Smiths that come up. And believe it or not, some John Smiths can be born on the same day, okay? So you want to also know the area where they were born. If you know the state, you may not know the city, but if you know the state where your family member always told you, hey, your grandfather used to live down in Roanoke, Virginia. Okay, so if you know that, or your grandfather lived in Virginia, I think it was somewhere near Roanoke. So if you know that information, you can definitely get started with looking for persons. So I think it's important for us to understand that, to ask our family members some questions so that we can put together our own family tree, or maybe be the one to put together the family tree for our family, would be very helpful for many people, because you don't know, you may have descended from some great persons, kings and queens. I know a lot of us are descendants of kings and queens from Africa. You may have descended from royal bloodline, and you just never know. And so you do want to find out. That's why we're doing this show. I'm doing this show to encourage you to find out who you are. Who are you? All right? And so I believe you're somebody great, but you've got to find it out, and you've got to trace it back, and then share it with the rest of your family members. I have a cousin, believe it or not, every time I'm doing ancestry research or research, she's like, oh, make sure, cousin, you let me know. So I'm like, okay, all y'all want me to do this research, and then y'all can just, have the information. But usually there's one family member who's passionate about genealogy and about finding out about the ancestors and digging up that good information. And usually there's one person who does pass it down. And so, that could be you. This may be the start to your journey of helping your family to know who you are. Now, before getting started, these are some tips for dealing with genealogy. Ask yourself, what do I want to learn from my genealogy research? Use this to guide your research. And you're going to narrow your focus on what it is that you're trying to learn on a specific point in time, okay? Because if you make it too broad, you're going to be all over the place, okay? And so I want you to be able to narrow your focus on what it is you want to learn, okay? First, I'm going to go back and talk about that. But why is it important to know your heritage? I want to make sure I get to this on this particular show, number 1 of Who Are You? You need to know what makes you you, what makes you who you are, what makes you look the way you are, what makes you do what you do, and what even makes you stand the way you stand and walk the way you walk and talk the way you talk. It answers many questions that you may have. And if there are any family illnesses that you're predisposed to, a lot of times this discovery can help you to learn those things. Now I want to go back and so your genealogy gives you a sense of identity. A lot of times people have a challenge with their identity. And so when you go back and you research and learn who you are, it helps you to have a sense of strong identity. The reason I started my ancestry research about 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago now, is because I was looking for one side of my family. My mother's side, my Collins, Brown, Washington side of the family, Du Bois, we have all that information. Okay, I'm probably sure I can find something if I really need to. But my mother's father's side, the Smith side, is what I was looking for. And so I narrowed my search down to that. I, believe it or not, bumped into many brick walls. I think I had a lot of bumps and bruises from that. And I still have some bumps and bruises. But that is the reason that I started this research. And so it's important to know your why. Why are you researching? What are you looking for? Are you just looking simply to find out why you look the way you look? Or are you simply looking to know who your great-grandparents were, where they come from, and what they possibly could have done? Are you looking for maybe somebody that you heard was a family member, nobody's been able to find them, and you want to help your family to find that person? So you've got to name your why. Why are you doing this? I hope to encourage you to do it, to get some information that maybe you didn't have. Maybe you don't know who your great-great-great-grandparents are. Maybe you don't know who their parents were, their sisters and brothers were. And so this is why I am here to encourage you, after 7 years of doing my own work, that it is very revealing, it is very exciting, it is very rewarding, but it's also very taxing. So you've got to be ready, because once you start digging, I don't know that you're going to be ready to just give it up overnight. All right, because when you start finding out different things about family members that you've never heard of, and you one document leads you to another document, I do believe that you will be excited and you will want to continue to discover even more things. And so again, what is your why to doing this research? And hopefully your why is because you want to be able to find out more about you, what makes you you, and your identity. You want to be able to connect to, because one other thing I found out, and I'm almost out of time here, is that we were Irish. We come from an Irish heritage, and so when I found that out, I said, oh well, maybe I need to be on St. Patrick's Day, going and putting on some green and going to get me one of those green beers. And so, a lot of times you do want to connect and experience those things that maybe your ancestors experienced. And so maybe if you find out you're German, you want to go and experience some German food, and maybe even a German dance or something. Maybe even take a trip to Germany. And so, ancestry or your genealogical study is going to take you places, great places. So I just want to say, get ready for all that you're going to find out. But don't be afraid to ask questions and to get the answers to the questions that you ask. So again, I say, who are you? Thank you for joining me, and be sure to tune in next week. We're going to have a great show for you again next week on Who Are You? Discovering Our Heritage.
If you ever wanted to know who you are or where you're from,
Wow, I really wanted to know where my family's from. I kind of thought we were from South Carolina, but I think I heard somebody say that we were from maybe the Virgin Islands or something like that.
times my family thought that they came from West Africa when they found out that we came from the South Central portion of Africa.
Many of us have heard that we're from one place, later to find out that none of that our family members thought was true was fact.
So his family, because his mother was Native American, so we claim Native American because my ancestry has shown that we have that mixture, that blend that most of us have, but less Native American than African. So knowing your heritage and knowing where you came from is important. DNA does count.
So that'll be good to know.
Who are you?